Top of the day. Beautiful people. Welcome to Real Talk with Giuseppe. Today, my best friend, hands down, Ryan Shammam, which we've been talking about a lot of stuff.
Yep.
What's up, brother?
How are you?
I'm great.
Happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
I gotta see you every day.
Yeah. Talk to each other every day.
It's an unusual thing here. So today, Ryan and I have been really studying a lot of things and watching videos from economists, and we start brainstorming. We're not just great friends. We actually work together. He's in the lending industry.
That's right.
And he loans money. And I sell real estate. So we start talking about 2019 predictions. And, you know, as the title says, truth, facts, or myths. So there's so many myths about all, you know, this real estate bubble approaching and this whole BS. So, you know, there's the elephant in the room.
Right.
They're all talking about we're due for a correction. It's going to be a bubble.
Right.
The world is going to end. The aliens are going to come and destroy all the houses in San Diego. That's what they're saying. So let's talk about that. Facts. Boom.
So I'm not going to pretend to be an economist or a real estate expert, but what I look at, I mean, I'm a numbers guy. I focus on the numbers. I look at what all the kind of indicators of what caused the crash in 2008. And a lot of it, what happened, and I'm in the lending business, had to do with lending, right? The lending market opened up, it softened. A lot of people who probably shouldn't be buying homes ended up buying homes because you could do zero down, stated income loans, get into these deferred interest loans. And a lot of that is kind of what caused the crash,
On
honestly.
that end, Ryan, I know, I'm sure you know, how many people end up in jail because they did shady shit back then?
Probably a lot more should have been in jail, to be honest with you. You know, there's a lot of people that did bad loans, but they went. That was a little different reason. It's not because it's not like the mortgage people invented these loans. We didn't, right?
No, totally.
Wall Street.
Yeah.
You know, they
That's
wanted mortgage-backed securities. They invented these mechanisms and loans to help people get into properties maybe that they shouldn't have got into. That whole other fraud thing of why people went to jail is because they were fabricating information. A little different,
Right.
a little bit different.
Which is adding to what the problem already was present there.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah. So things are different and not like they used to be back then.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the crash happened in 2008, you have to look at what kind of loans were being written and what the market looked like in 2000, probably 2002, 3, 4, 5, that led up to this bubble bursting in 2008. So if we were to go back and do the same kind of exercise now and look at the type of loans that were written in 2013, 14, 15, right? People who got into loans back, who were qualifying for loans back then had to put money down, at least 5%, usually more. They have to have a really good job. They have to have income. Their debt-to-income ratios have to work. So all of those people who got into those mortgages easily qualified for those mortgages because we didn't want the same thing to happen again as happened in 2008. So the real estate market is just a lot more stable. The mortgages are a lot more stable. There isn't a scenario where people are going to be impacted by a much higher mortgage payment that they can't afford in 2018 and 19, 2020. That's not going to happen. So one of the huge reasons of what happened and what caused the crash, there isn't anything that's happened like that recently.
Right, and you know, we do this every day. I mean, before you actually put a stamp of a loan gets approved, it's a pain in the neck. It's not that easy.
No.
You have to go through the loophole. You have to go through your tax return, your pay stubs. So there's no anymore not documentation needed. It might be some programs out there, right? I've seen some emails coming in, but is it really like a no docs kind of thing?
That's another kind of myth that we can talk about is, are the lending, because I hear this sometimes from realtors or people kind of getting into the market, are the lending guidelines loosening? Because that was kind of what happened before the crash, and people are worried about that. The lending guidelines are loosening, but in a different way. If you are self-employed and you really don't show a lot of income, but you have a lot of cash, you have a lot of reserves, you're willing to put 20% down on a house, there are some investors that are willing to lend to you in those specific situations, where maybe you introduce a profit and loss statement and show kind of what your real earnings are as opposed to maybe what your tax returns show.
Right.
But they're going to make you put 20, sometimes 30% down.
No,
in
there's a
situations
30%.
like that.
So just think about this.
Yeah.
If you think that's a sign of a bubble, I think you're totally wrong. do you need to put down 30% to have a no documents needed loan?
There isn't even no documents.
Well, you do,
needed.
yeah, profit and loss statement. You still have to show their income.
If you're looking at qualifying for a loan, it's really kind of broken down into four pieces. You have credit, you have income, you have employment, and then you have reserves, right? So if they would maybe take, if the other three pieces are very strong, if the credit piece is strong, if your reserve piece is strong, and your down payment piece is strong, then they're going to say, okay, well, maybe take a look at the income piece. And if you're self-employed, when we know you're really not going to show what you really make, then all of the rest of the criteria will allow us maybe to get you to qualify. The difference between now and 2004, 5, 6 is back then, you didn't have to put a lot down. You could do all of those things
with no money down.
with very minimal to
3%.
zero down and get yourself into a deferred interest loan, and it was going to be really detrimental to you later. This is a completely different animal now that you're dealing with.
So those are just some key points that honestly you already see a huge difference between now, which people are still talking about we're going to be having we're in a bubble, we're going to be having a crash or whatnot, versus 2006. So there's so many different things that are happening right now during this era than 2018 easing in 2019. So we were listening to Steve Harvey. I don't know if any of you watching here knows who Steve Harvey. Harney. So Steve Harney, we spent about an hour and a half watching his videos and his infographics and whatnot. So Steve Harney had a. I know. Sorry, I was thinking about him, about the Philippines. Yeah, exactly. And then it comes with that. So Steve Harney is another guy. So this Steve Harney is actually is an economist, somebody that's been studying real estate markets forever, for decades and over. So what he did, they studied about 500 different economists, which predicted this crash back in 2006, 7. So they said he was able to determine that the crash was about to happen. So what he did, he actually declared today that he's been reading about 7 to 8 hours per day and looking at graphics and economists and studying every single piece of information that's out there to really figure it out what's going to happen in the next few years. And what he says is quite interesting. First of all, it says a change occurs and create doubts in the economy, which is true. We're seeing a huge slowdown in the last few months in the sales, number of sales, really. Nothing special as far as price drops or whatnot. It's interesting because people say, oh my gosh, the market is panicking right now. You know this there. How many clients we talk to? I don't know what to do. I think it's going to crash and this and that. Guys, historically, it's always the same. Finish the summer, let's say starting October, all the way to February, beginning of March, the market slows down, no matter what economy looks like, no matter what year it is. It could be 2003, it could be 2018. It's the same thing. It happens every single year because parents, majority of people that purchase a home, they usually have a family. And if they have a family, they have to be worried about the kids, taking it to school, cater to the family or whatnot. It's normal. They don't have enough time to bring the kids to school, pick them up, take them to activities, make sure they do their homework and whatnot. Let's think about this. And then what? Even be worried about searching to buy a home or selling a home and then go see properties on the weekends or after 5. It's impossible. It's really hard to do that unless there's such a huge motivation behind you, such as your landlord increased the rent so much that you can't afford it anymore, which we're going to be talking about that. Yeah. Or you can't have your dog anymore and you live in an apartment, or I don't know, whatever the case is, and you really are motivated to buy something quick and fast, and you buy during the winter time and the holidays time. So in essence, I don't see we're going to have, actually, he's saying that in 2019, remember what he said, we're going to have more sales than 2017, which is crazy. We had one of the best years ever in 2017, but apparently in 2019 is going to be even better. Mm-hmm. So in this, he studied 500 economists, and from these 500 economists, 94% of them says that the prices will still go up about 4.5% in the next year. 3%, only 3% of this 500 people said that the prices will be steady, and 4% they said that the prices are going to go down. So
A little bit.
a little bit down. They say 4%. They said about 3% price reduction.
But none of them really predicted any kind of major real estate crash.
Nobody says anything. So we're talking about 500 people, the best economists in the world, which they predicted the crash back then, which all they do is looking at stats, the economy, the bonds, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and everything else. So we're talking about people that know their facts. So all we can do here today, you and I, we've been studying what they said, obviously, and we come up with, give information to you out there. So please, stop saying that we're in a bubble. Stop saying that we're going to have a huge crash, because it's not going to happen. There is no significant proof that's going to happen. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with they're predicting that there's going to be more sales next year, because towards the end of this year, as the interest rates started to go up a little bit, and the property value stopped increasing the way that they did, a lot of buyers kind of put the brakes on, and they said, hold on, let me take a look and see what's going to happen here. Is there going to be some kind of crash happening? And when that crash doesn't happen, all those buyers who probably should have bought in November and December, right, are going to now buy at the beginning or towards the middle sometime in 2000, next year.
Yeah, 19.
So you're going to have a lot of these buyers that are going to start building up that are going to be ready, hopefully, to buy.
Most interesting thing too is, so everybody's been complaining about, oh my gosh, the prices in San Diego are crazy, and it's too much. Now that we'll finally get into a more normal real estate market, so meaning that the growth is slowing down, people are panicking that we're going to go into a bubble. What the hell do you want? Yeah. I mean, seriously, you've been asking for it for the past few years, including me, actually. I always said I prefer to have a normal market, an accelerated one, because people feel more comfortable. You don't have to rush into buying a property. There's 15 offers on it, or there's such a limited inventory that you're just settling for something that you're really not 100% satisfied with it. So finally, we're getting into a market that's fun to work with, me as a professional, and actually it could be advantageous to buyers. I'm excited when I go with a buyer and we can finally put an offer that's 3%, 5%, 7%, depending on the case, less than asking price. When was the last time I did that?
When?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years, since 2013. Then there was multiple offers on every single property we went to check out, and there was such a limited inventory, and the property would go so fast within a weekend. Finally, properties now start staying on the market a little longer.
Right.
Talking about the rates we were talking about today. So, in my opinion, it's still a great time to buy a home, live in there, and invest in your future and your family because of the rates as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the buyers that I meet, first question I ask, or even ask them, what do you guys know about what's going on with interest rates? Do you have any questions about that? Because interest rates are kind of headlines now. Interest rates are going up. The Feds today even increased rates a little bit. But the interest rates, what I try to do is really kind of break that down to a monthly number for a client. The interest rates that have increased over the last 6 months or so have added an additional $30 or so to every $100,000 you buy.
Say that again?
So about $30 increased, $30 per 100,000. So the average loan amount that we do, like in our office, is around $400,000.
Let's call it that.
So that same house that you were going to buy is going to cost you maybe $120 more a month than maybe it would have 6 months ago.
So let's repeat that again. The same house is going to cost you $120 a month, which is, would you say, a cup of Starbucks a day? Maybe less, because a cup of coffee at Starbucks is $4 to $5.
Well, the difference is, I have a lot of people say, well, I'm paying an extra $120 now. I'm going to wait. They tell me I'm going to wait until the rates go back down. Like that's some certainty, some absolute thing that the rates are going to go back down. If you were to put 100 economists in the room and you ask them which directions the rates are going to go, most all of them are going to tell you that they're going to go up. So there is going to be a cost in waiting. If you sit around and wait for these rates to potentially go back down, that means you're going to be paying rent for that much longer. The rates are probably going to go up, and if you're not going to buy now, then you're not for sure going to buy then, and you're going to kind of missed the boat that's kind of slowly sailing away from you.
Right.
So you have to look at kind of the opposite, not how much more money you're spending now, $120 more, but you could wait 6 months and spend another $240 more, right? As opposed to the $120 that you're doing.
Not
right
only
now.
that, whatever you missed, so you keep on paying the rent, which you multiply. You know, what's the average rent? Is $1,680 a month. So times.
I don't know who gets $1,680.
Well, I know. I want.
I don't know.
Maybe in City Heights.
Exists.
Maybe in City Heights you can get something like that.
Maybe
for,
like down in San
two-bedroom.
Isidro or something.
But it's interesting. I agree with you. But that's another story there. But so on the rates point, which I love the fact that you really go deep into it, you study and you break it down with a dollar amount, because this number is 4%, 5%, 6%. It doesn't really mean anything until you actually put a dollar number on it. So, and you and I will work on this with our clients. We explain that about the monthly payment, because who cares if the rate's going to be 6% or 5% or 4%. What it's really important is how much you're actually putting out of pocket on a monthly basis to pay the mortgage, cover the mortgage insurance if you don't have 20% down, right?
Yep.
And the tax benefits that comes with it.
Right. Well, you got to look at it. Let's say rates do go back down. You just refinance into the lower rate. It's not like you're locked into that rate forever, because I think what a lot of people do is they do this calculation in their head, oh my God, I'm paying an extra $100 a month times 30 years, I'm going to pay an extra this amount per month over the life of my loan. In California, most people keep their mortgages for 3 to 5 years. Most people, 3 to 5 years after that, they're either refinancing, paying off the loan in some way, whether it's the sale of their house into a new house. So you really got to look at this thing in a 3 to 5 year window, honestly. And if the rates do slide back down, the first thing we do is call those clients and say, hey, look, interest rates have dropped a point. Let's look at refinancing you and getting that rate back down and your payments back down. So there's ways to take advantage of the market if the market does soften for whatever reason. If the rates do slide back down, you can refinance. That's no problem. That shouldn't be a reason. People telling me interest rates are a reason that they aren't buying just doesn't make sense. It's not really. It's not a real reason. There's usually some other reason behind that we usually have to get into and try to figure out. Right. Them.
So, and this is another thing, going back to the prediction and the bubble and this, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had the crash, when the rates low, really low?
Yep. Yeah, the rates were extremely low. That's part of the reason that happened. So
that's not happening. They're going up. They're not going down.
Yeah.
So you guys got to stop saying that. I'm like, it's like an embedded command. Like Justin just wrote, the media wants a crash from what it looks like. I think we see a normal market, which scares many because not many remember remember the back in the days, he wanted to say. So, which is true. It's like we tend to forget quick. The rates are 5%. It's like, oh, they're so high.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Well, it's a little bit of sticker shock. It's the new normal for clients now. I mean, millennials, a lot of first-time homebuyers, all they've ever known is watching the market crash in 2008 and all of the headlines around that. Then they see the market go through this hyper acceleration because it's recovering from the crash, rates in the 3s and 4s, and now they're seeing the market starting to stabilize. They're seeing rates maybe in the high 4s or 5s, and this is all really kind of news to them.
It's new to them.
They've never been in a market where the market has kind of stayed stable or maybe even dipped a little bit. They've never seen rates in the 5s, so to them, this is real sticker shock for them to think this must be we might be hitting the tipping point before this crash, because that must be what's happening, because that's what happened before, when they were just really not educated and informed of the reasons those things happen. And those reasons really don't exist today. So you have to, a lot of that is just kind of having them understand, educate, show them really what the differences are in payment, and more importantly, what's the difference between them paying rent and buying this house right now? Is there, we could really dive into that and talk about the tax benefits and everything else included in that.
The rent, the net worth of owning a property versus renting, there's so much to it. But anyways, we're not here trying to talk to you people watching this show and convince you to buy real estate because we sell real estate. We're just giving you the facts.
Right.
Then if it's a great opportunity for you watching that you feel tight in your little apartment, or you're sick and tired of being dictated by your landlord how much you got to pay on a monthly basis, or if next year how much is going to go up, or if you can have a pet or not, then maybe you start wanting to learn a little more about how to become a homeowner, if it works for you or not. That's what we're doing right now here.
Right.
So affordability. It's interesting. There's this thing is like, oh, there is an index about affordability in San Diego. The price is so high and this and that. So Steve Arney, again, it talks about affordability back in the 90s. And it was way harder to get a place and afford to buy a home. As a matter of fact, the number of people that owned the homes back then was way lower than it is today. So if you think that the affordability today is not that good or it's less than it used to be, you're totally wrong. I mean, the minimum wage is higher. The number of unemployment, the unemployment is lower. I mean, there's so much more that we have today than we used to have back in the 90s and the 80s. You brought an example today, your dad's first home. Yeah. How much was the interest on that thing?
14%.
14%.
14%, and they thought they were getting
a deal.
A good deal. I mean, the affordability thing, these are numbers that they use, whether they're for San Diego or for California or nationwide. Like affordability, if you really want to know if you can afford a loan or not, your lending qualifications are going to tell you pretty fast.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to borrow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and a lot of kind of the bodies that try to dictate, what you could potentially qualify for. Those things are pretty strict these days. So if you can't qualify for the loan, we're going to tell you don't qualify the loan based on your debt to income ratio. And affordability really boils down to how much do you make, how much is this mortgage payment, how much of your income are you using towards this mortgage payment in addition to the rest of your expenses. So they're using kind of general income figures for a whole group of people, and they're applying that to the median prices of a whole area. And it's just, I mean, those are just big general numbers that are going to show up on a report somewhere. But when you're talking to an individual, their affordability level is something totally different.
It's based on what you make.
Yeah, so it's
period.
Not, yeah, I mean, that's just
and your
that's just a generalization really for that.
So what we always do, Ryan and I, when we study, because what we do, we don't just try to sell people a house. They call in, I want to buy a home. Okay, great, I'll show it to you and you bought it. It doesn't work like that. So we actually take several hours, we work together, and we really come up with a plan. We try to understand, first of all, you always, pull out the credit and you look at their debts and you try to keep their debt income ratio to be what, close to 40?
I mean, the maximum really is going to be somewhere close to 50%.
Right.
If they want to go
but
that
we
direction.
Usually don't go that high.
I mean, I want to check where their affordability level is. I mean, it's different for what we can tell you qualify for, but using 50% of your gross income to qualify seems a little steep. So I will ask the borrower, like, what are you comfortable paying per month? How much are you paying in rent? What are you comfortable paying per month? How much you have to put down? How much you have available to put down? And then we will kind of back into the loan amount, which will back us into the purchase price, and we'll kind of make sure that you stay within those levels and educate them on that. So by no means are we trying to stretch and push the affordability level on clients. There's no reason to do that. But that's a conversation that me and you and the clients all have together to make sure that they're comfortable, right?
That's the first thing we ask.
Exactly.
The majority of people ask, how much do you want to spend to buy a home? We ask, how much do you feel comfortable spending a month?
Right.
That's the key, really, because at the end of the day, I can say $2 million, but if I don't know how much my monthly payment is going to be, it doesn't matter. Exactly. Even if you can qualify for $1 million, but then you're stretching, like you said, at 50%, that's steep. I mean, just thinking about you go buy some grocery, you need $300 at least a week in order to buy some food. So you got to put that in consideration, which is something that we are concerned that we put in consideration as well. So moving forward, I know there's several products and regulations. It's interesting because they keep on saying millennials think that you need 20% in order to buy a home.
Right.
And in actual facts,
I mean, you can do products as low as 3% down. So you can buy a house 3% down. A lot of first-time home buyer programs are available. If you guys have ever heard of an FHA loan, that's 3.5% down through the Federal Housing Administration, and that's not a new product. People think all of a sudden this is new, right? FHA loans have been around forever. They've been around before the housing crisis, before 2008, before all of that. They've been there. So that is the Federal Housing Administration wants people to buy homes, and they make a product available for them to be able to do that. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have a 3% down loan that's available. But again, the qualifications on those are pretty strict. You have to have reserves. You're going to have to, your debt to income ratio has to work. You have to have pretty good credit. So there are products where you can get into them with less than, even less than 5% down. Whether or not that payment's affordable to you, whether or not you qualify for that, that isn't the majority though. There are some, I think that kind of catches some headlines. There's people buying houses for less than 5% down, but there's a lot of people buying houses for a lot more down than that. That just happens to be available to some first-time home buyers right now.
Right, and the other thing is, you know, apparently, this is shocking to me. Where is it? I wrote some notes, I apologize, I'm just going back to, what was that? More than 50% of homes in the United States have, actually, I gotta find that. Do you remember that?
I think I know what it was. It's 48% of homes.
48%.
Of all homes in the United States have at least 50% equity.
48% that have more than 50% equity. Think about that. I'm like, how can a crash happen when you have that?
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, even if the market was to dip 10,
Which is
15,
fine.
some outrageous number like 20%, if that was to happen for whatever the reason, if we're
Whatever
all
reason,
wrong,
yeah.
if all these economists are wrong and something crazy like that does happen for whatever the reasons are, people are kind of insulated a little bit in the sense that they have a lot of equity in their house. So one of the things that caused the huge decrease in property values back in 2008, 9, 10 is because you had a lot of people foreclosing on their homes and walking away, and you had all these bank-owned properties, huge neighborhoods, all of them kind of defaulting at the same time, and then you had this tremendous amount of inventory on the market, and then the property values all just kind of collapsed after that. There really isn't a scenario where you're going to have a whole bunch of people defaulting all at the same time, because people have created so much wealth and equity in their homes. There's no way they're just going to walk away from those houses. If the market was to dip, worst case scenario, maybe they sell the house. So
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. So having a ton of people without a lot of equity in their house all defaulting at the same time is not going to happen, because those loans haven't been written over the last few years for that to happen.
That's the thing. Like, you know, back in the days, we had this deferred interest.
Yeah, you had deferred interest loans leading up to the crash in 2003, 4, 5, 6. People who were doing negative amortization loans, deferred interest loans, qualifying with minimal down. Their mortgage balances were increasing. If they took a poll like this in 2008 and said what percentage of homes have equity, that number would be in the single digits, probably something like that. So the market really couldn't handle much more than a few percentage decrease, and if it did, then the whole thing would kind of flip, and that's kind of what happened. Here, you have so much equity in these homes, even if it was to take a little bit of a dip, it can handle that.
Right, and this is the other thing too. So when a crash occurs, you have to have 3 to 4 to 5 years prior to it when you're building up for the crash.
Right.
We haven't had that.
Right.
What did we have? Yes, we had the real estate market. Let's talk about the local market in San Diego. The market has been going up. You know, we had double digits at one point, and then single digits, 6 to 7% average per year, which it seems a lot. It seems a lot, but in actual facts is dictated by the economy. You know, we have, we're very strong. We have a lot of military personnel here, great companies, Lumina. We have all kinds of stuff going on in San Diego, which is creating new job opportunities. And as a consequence, the market is steadily going up. Mm-hmm. Now, I personally don't see anything that's going to lead to another crash. I'm like, so even if, right, let's say somebody's really setting it up for another crash in the future. Mm-hmm. You have to set it up for it. Oh, sure. There's no deferred interest amortization going on right now.
That's right.
Right? There is nothing fishy. It's hard to get approved for a loan. It's not that easy. You have to have a solid job. You have to show your income and so on and on. If you do a profit and loss statement or bank statements alone only with, so you don't have to show your real income through the IRS, then you need 20, 30%. So,
right.
And it's going to be majority of the loans that you actually issue with your company, they're like 30 years fixed, right?
Yeah, most people, I would say, probably over 90% of the loans we do are 30-year fixed loans. None of these, not even really a lot of the 5-year fixed loans even, because a lot of the investors don't want to put themselves in a position where they have loans on the books
Right.
that are fixed for 5 years, and after the 5 years is up, the rate probably would go up. And anytime the rate goes up, the chances of default go up. So they're not even putting themselves in positions right now where they're going to take on any added risk. Especially, these are the same guys that were in the business back in 2008, so they don't want to put themselves in any kind of predicament if the market was to start to soften at all, especially for the buyers.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that said, you know, we're excited, holiday season, everybody's excited, thinking about Christmas and whatnot. So stop thinking about we're getting towards a crash. Just put your mind at ease and understand that we're having an adjustment, but the adjustment is for the economy. It has nothing to do with the real estate market.
Right.
So it's creating doubts in people, and that's why today Ryan and I were sitting here and talking to you face to face about these issues. Another thing I want to do is share with you, it's about rent versus buy. There's so many people talked about this, and I don't know. I think the biggest issue is how to share what we know with the public. Some people get really technical, talk about analytics, numbers, percentages. Personally, I've learned how to be like that, but I'm a high IID. Therefore, I'm all about visual. I get to see things, and I see the shiny objects, I'm going to get distracted. And I believe that millennials have the same problem. Would you agree?
Shiny object syndrome.
Here we go. So that's why we can only retain 3 minutes of the damn video, actually 1.5 minutes to be precise. What's the max length on an Instagram video? A minute. So we only retain 1 minute of the information. Most of you are not going to watch the whole video. But all I can tell you is this. We pulled some stats in San Diego County right here. From 2006 to 2018, there was about 23% of rent increase. 23%. Did we have a 23% increase in the sales price? No, we did not. So, but who cares? Keep on renting. That's fine. If you want to do that, keep on renting. So I want to do a quick math. They're saying that you're the numbers guy, and I'm putting on the spot because he didn't know I was asking this. So which is not true. How can an average spend $1,800 a month? I mean, I don't know. I think anyone nowadays spends $2,000 to $2,100, but let's call it $1,800 a month, right? For the past, from 2006 to 2000, that's 12 years. How much is that?
And
Let's call it $2,000 a month. You have a family. Let's consider that.
how much is that since when?
In rent.
In
So
the
it's
last 10 years?
$24,000 a year times 12 years.
Well, times 10 years, it's 240,000 plus
48.
Yeah, 240
80.
plus another 20.
288.
Yeah, 288.
So there's people that I know, I'm not joking, I really know, and I get it. You got completely crashed from the last real estate crash and economy crash in 2006,
Yeah.
and it crashed your dream of becoming a homeowner. You've been renting since then, 10 years. You spent $240,000 in rent. That is painful. Honestly, that is the most painful thing to do, just thinking about it. Bad things happen. You got dropped by your girlfriend. Your wife cheated on you, and the real estate market crashed once in 2007, 2008. That's how it is, guys. So I know it's crazy analogy, but this is probably something that people can relate to, you know? I mean, it's painful. It is painful. And if you look at it, how much money you're wasting. And I'm so passionate about this because I have these conversations every day. We both do, right? So what is the cost of waiting? We
Yeah.
talked about this.
So, I mean, everybody's a little bit different. I don't want to use like generalities,
General, right.
but I mean, the easiest way I always try to explain it to clients is they're always a little apprehensive about buying now, right? And I tell them, if you could have bought 6 months ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, would you have bought? And the resounding answer is always yes, right?
You kidding me?
It didn't matter even if they bought in 2008, the absolute one of the worst times to buy a home, and they bought the absolute. It was like August of 2008 was like when the crash basically started. You still made all of your money back plus more, right? So they're for sure telling me that they would have bought. If they could go and crawl into a little time machine and go back in time, they would have bought. But they're apprehensive about buying now. So we always look at it, one of the biggest wealth creator in the United States is owning a home. The sooner you start that, the better. So waiting, we can look at the cost of waiting, how much money in dollars, and you can monetize it. You can really look at almost a daily cost, but everybody's a little different depending on whether you're paying rent, whether you're not paying rent, whether you're living with your parents, whatever it is that you're doing. No matter what, at the end of the day, when we're all looking at our future selves, we all want to be at some point retired and own the home that we live in, and we don't have a mortgage payment. That's really the only way to do that.
Right.
If you look at a lot of these, they had a statistic we saw with Steve Harney today.
No, Harvey, Arnie.
Steve Harney. They polled 65-year-old, a bunch of 65-year-old people, and people who rented at the age of 65 had an average of $4,700 in the bank. Homeowners at 65, they're looking at their net worth, $300,000. So there's a huge difference, and you have to, for me, I always look at my future self and where I want to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. When do I want to retire? At some point, you have to be a homeowner, and you have to start that process in order to do that. So every day you wait, every 6 months you wait, every year you wait, you're kind of delaying, you're delaying that process, you're delaying that growth from happening for you. And if you're worried about the market slipping a little bit, even if it does, you're not a home flipper. You're not trying to get in and out of this house in 6 months, right? You're probably going to be there for years. So if there's a little dip in the market, that's really not going to impact you right now. You have to look at 3 to 5 to 10 years out, really.
And I look at very, in a simple lens. So the thing is, even people that bought in that August 2008,
Yeah.
right? So they bought for the highest price ever heard. Let's say they would have kept that home for, I actually did the math with a few people, it's interesting. If they would have kept the home in San Diego from August 2008 all the way to August 2014, guess what? They would have made money. That's just 6 years living in the same damn home with your family, enjoying it, paying your mortgage. That's it. All you got to do, and you would have made money. So
coming out of the worst housing crisis
ever recorded in the history of the United States. So that tells you a lot. If you just keep your house, I did actually a calculation, no matter what happened in percentages going up and down, whatnot, you should have at least, safe to say, a gain of a 3% on a yearly basis. No matter if they go up, down, because you're paying down the principal, you pay the interest, you take the tax benefits, and you're about 3% across the board.
Yeah.
So 6 years, 18% easy. Even if we move like a needle every year of 2% of price increases because the affordability is not ideal.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think, anything else you wanted to add to this?
No, I think you got it covered.
I think we talked about, do you have any questions? Anybody in the audience? There's so many people here today. It's crazy. Any questions?
Conversation, though. Really put it in perspective.
It was interesting. I mean, that's what I think the biggest problem is, like when you go too deep with numbers and stuff, people don't really get it. But when you talk about money and the daily.
Well, and also the refinance thing. I think people don't think about that. I know I haven't thought about that, but you're really not locked in. You can refinance.
You can refinance,
if the rates go
totally.
down. That's good to know.
That's clear.
Yeah, one of the refinance things, people are like, yeah, but then I restart my loan and I start the whole thing over again, and people are kind of concerned about that. You can make the term of your loan whatever you want. If you're 4 years into your term of your loan and you took a 30-year term and you have 26 years left, we can set the thing up, set your payment ups to where you can take the lower rate and set up a payment plan to where you pay off the loan in 26 years. And you don't have to restart on a 30-year.
Oh, really?
There are other
amazing.
terms you can take. You can take a new 30. Some people want that, want the flexibility of having the lower payment because maybe they really need to have the savings or be able to relieve a little bit from a payment standpoint. But some people are comfortable with their payment.
Right.
But you can then just keep making the same payment. I tell clients, just keep making the same payments you're making right now to the new loan. And as opposed to being paid off in 26 years, you're paid off in 20 years.
Beautiful.
Because that extra money goes towards the principal. So that can always kind of be changed People have a concern about that, about refinancing. It's kind of like, don't do it unless you save this much per month or reduce the interest rate by this much. Everybody, again, those are like real general numbers. Like the affordability index is a general number. Yeah. Everybody's got to look at their individual financing, what's important to them, and then we can structure something around the best way to kind of fit their needs.
And I want to leave you, everyone, with the little golden nugget that's they made me think so much. We keep on saying about prices going down. That's not the case. It's the price appreciation that is going down, not prices of a home. The price appreciation, meaning that appreciation in San Diego has been going up and steady about 6, 7, 8% every single year. Thank goodness, we're going to start seeing that slowing it down, being at 3%, 3.5%. It doesn't mean that we're losing money. Yeah. It simply means that it's going to go lower. So people, there's more people that should get into home ownership. And that makes total sense. 2019 is going to be a huge year. If you're watching this video, you're thinking about, should I dump my rentals and finally become homeowner? Maybe you should pick up the phone and call one of us. He's the money guy here, Ryan Shammam. Thank you so much for coming, brother.
Of course, my pleasure.
I am Joe Corbisiero, Dream Homes team. Thank you so much once again. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao. Happy holidays.